So apparently flirting has rules, but no one ever sent me the handbook. Because tell me why this woman, who's very much taken, keeps giving me these confusing signals. You know the type. One moment she's acting totally normal, and the next, there's this undeniable something in the air. It's like the mood shifts. Her energy changes and you're left wondering, is it real, or am I just imagining this? If you've ever caught yourself thinking, wait, is she into me? Or am I losing my mind? Then trust me, you're not alone. And you're definitely not crazy. Because women who are taken can still feel attraction. The signs are subtle, forbidden, and often unspoken, but they're there. And today we're decoding them. I'm breaking down the 10 signs you need to know. These aren't just playful behaviors or friendly gestures. These are cues deeply rooted in psychology, body language, and human emotion. And if you stick around until the very end, I've got a bonus sign that's more powerful than all the others combined. It's the one most men never see coming. But once you know it, you'll never miss it again. Sign number 1. Her voice becomes softer around you. You ever notice how her voice changes? Like she's in the middle of a conversation with someone else, clear, confident, totally normal. Then she turns to you, and suddenly everything drops. Her voice, softer, the tone, warmer, almost like she's letting her guard down, but only with you. That shift, it's not random, it's not coincidence, it's instinct. And it's one of the first signs that something deeper is going on beneath the surface. Here's what you need to understand her. Woman's voice is a tool. She doesn't just use it to communicate facts. She uses it to send signals, psychological, emotional, sometimes even biological. In fact, research published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior shows that women unconsciously alter their vocal tone when they're speaking to someone they're attracted to. It's not about volume, it's about texture. Her voice becomes more melodic, softer, sometimes even a little breathy. And no, she's not catching a cold. She's reacting to you. So, let's make this real. You're in a group. She's talking to someone else. Voice is neutral, brisk, maybe even a little sharp. But when you join the conversation, her voice drops just a notch. Her speech slows down. There's a subtle change in rhythm. It's smoother. It flows. And if you really pay attention, there's even a hint of softness, like velvet on glass. That shift, that's attraction. That's her body language in audio form. Now, don't confuse this with shyness or politeness. That's where most guys mess up. They think, oh, she's just being nice. No, man, she's not nice to everybody like that. The key is to compare. How does she talk to others, and how does she talk to you? If she's all business with everyone else but suddenly sounds like she's narrating a slow jazz song when she's talking to you, pay attention, because you are not imagining it. Another giveaway? Laughter. If she laughs around you easily, quickly, even at things that aren't that funny, she's not laughing at the joke. She's reacting to the feeling of being around you. That's biology at work. Laughter is a social bonding mechanism. It releases endorphins. It makes us feel safe, connected. When a woman laughs freely around a man, especially when she doesn't do that with others, it's not an accident. Still not sure? Here's a trick. The next time you're in a room with her, say nothing, just listen. Watch how she speaks to people, gauge the tone, then see what happens when she speaks to you. If her tone changes, warmer, softer, slower, she's reacting to your presence. That's not surface level stuff, that's her subconscious kicking in. Because here's something Stoicism teaches us. People reveal more in how they respond to us than in what they say. The Stoic doesn't chase signs. He observes without reacting. He lets others expose themselves through their own patterns. And this is one of those patterns. Now, yes, some women are naturally soft-spoken. That's true. But here's the difference. If she talks that way to everyone, then fine, maybe that's just her. But if she suddenly gets softer, smoother, or warmer only when you're in the room, that's not personality. That's chemistry. And look, this doesn't mean she's going to make a move. She might never say anything directly, especially if she's taken. But that's the whole point of this list. The signs aren't obvious. They're forbidden, subtle. But if you learn to spot them, you'll stop questioning your own intuition. You'll start seeing reality for what it is. So, the next time she speaks to you, don't just hear the words, feel the tone. Ask yourself, why does her voice change when it's just us? And what is she trying not to say out loud? Because when a woman lets her voice soften, she's not just adjusting tone, she's lowering her shield. And in a world where attraction is usually loud and obvious, this is the kind that whispers. If you've ever felt that shift in her voice and knew it wasn't just in your head, type this below. I trust my instincts. Say it out loud. Put it in writing. That's what separates men who guess from men who know. And don't go anywhere. What's coming next might change the way you read people permanently. Sign number 2. She subtly changes her appearance around you. You ever wonder why she suddenly wears that one dress when you're around? Or why her hair looks just a little different on days when she knows she'll see you? Let me tell you something most men miss. When a woman is interested but can't say it out loud, her body talks. And one of the loudest signals, the way she changes how she looks when she knows you'll be near. Now, we're not talking about anything dramatic. She's not walking in dressed for the red carpet. But it's in the little shifts, the kind you only notice if you're actually paying attention. Maybe it's a touch of lipstick she doesn't usually wear. Maybe she puts her hair up when she usually leaves it down, or the other way around. Maybe she suddenly starts wearing jewelry, fixing her nails, switching perfume. Things that make her feel just a little more noticed, a little more powerful, a little more desired. Why? Because appearance is attention. And attraction, especially hidden attraction, is all about positioning. Here's the psychological core. When a woman is drawn to a man, she wants to be seen by him in a particular light. Not necessarily to seduce him outright, but to feel attractive to him in his eyes. It's primal. She's not doing it for the room, she's doing it for you. And here's the Stoic twist. Most men overlook you're not supposed to react immediately. You're not here to flatter, you're here to notice. The Stoic doesn't chase beauty. He observes change. He recognizes patterns without letting emotion hijack his perception. So what are the patterns? You start seeing her on certain days, and she always seems a little more put together than usual. She starts wearing colors that pop: deep reds, subtle blacks, sharp whites. She walks past you, and suddenly there's a new scent in the air, one you hadn't smelled on her before. It's not overwhelming, it's intentional. And if you're really tuned in, here's a detail few catch: mirroring. She starts dressing in a way that reflects your energy. You're wearing a leather jacket, she wears boots. You're more polished one day, she shows up in something sleek. It's unconscious mimicry, and it's one of the strongest signs of emotional alignment. But let me be clear, if she's taken, this will all be subtle. She won't throw herself at you. She'll signal. She'll test if you're paying attention, without ever admitting that she's the one starting the game. There's a reason for that. A woman in a committed relationship, if she finds herself drawn to someone else, goes through an internal conflict. She doesn't want to feel like she's crossing lines. So what does she do? She expresses interest in ways that give her plausible deniability. She can always say, "Oh, I just like this dress," or "I was just in the mood to try something new." But you're not guessing anymore. You're tracking the changes. You're comparing the before and after. And when those changes start happening only when you're around, that's not coincidence, that's communication. Let's say she normally dresses casual, hoodie, jeans, simple, but every time she knows you'll be there, boom, heels, hair done, accessories. Not flashy, but dialed in, present, feminine. She's not doing that because she felt bored that day. She's doing it because you matter in her visual field. Now here's where you stay grounded. You don't comment. You don't compliment. You simply notice. You let her wonder whether you picked up on it. And in that mystery, attraction grows. Because Stoicism isn't about ignoring desire. It's about not being enslaved by it. So here's what I want you to do. Look back. Think about that one woman who never seemed to care much before but suddenly started dressing just a little sharper when you were around. Was that an accident? Or was that a message? If you've ever seen this happen and felt it was about you, type this below. I see the shift. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And the more fluent you become in these quiet signals, the less you need to ask. You just know. Stay close. What's coming next reveals something even deeper, and most men walk right past it without even realizing. Sign 3. She finds ways to be near you. You ever feel like she's always there? Not in an obvious way, not clinging, not chasing, but somehow no matter where you are, she's nearby. Not directly in your space, but just close enough that you can feel it. That's not an accident. That's placement. That's intentional proximity. And here's what most guys miss. Attraction doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up in silent geometry. The distance between you and her, it shrinks, slowly, casually, but with precision. Think about it. You walk into a room, she was already sitting somewhere, but 5 minutes later she's moved. Now she's standing closer, sitting closer. She starts choosing the seat that happens to be near yours, or she takes the longer hallway just to cross paths with you. What you're seeing is a behavioral shift called proximity pursuit. It's not direct communication, it's environmental. People, consciously or not, move toward what they're emotionally drawn to. This happens in workplaces, social settings, even in classrooms. You might notice it over time. She used to keep her distance, but now she always ends up 1 or 2 steps closer. Same meetings, same gym schedule, same coffee run timing. Coincidence? Maybe once. But repetition? That's pattern. And pattern is proof. Let me break this down even further. When a woman wants to be near you but can't or won't admit it, she manufactures moments, accidental meetups, shared spaces, overlapping routines. And it all happens without a word. She might tell herself it's nothing. I just happen to be in the area. I always go here after work. But internally, there's a pull. And when you're the center of that gravitational field, she moves through your orbit more often than she'll ever confess. So what do? First, don't assume. Observe. The Stoic mindset isn't about jumping to conclusions. It's about tracking consistency over emotion. You're not trying to make meaning out of one lucky coincidence. You're noticing behavior over time. Because attraction isn't just in what people say, it's in what they repeat. Pay attention to her movement. How often does she end up in your space? How often does she choose the spot next to you instead of somewhere else? Is she changing her schedule, her walking route, her routine? Because when that starts happening, she's not just showing interest. She's making herself visible, available. She's trying to be chosen without ever asking to be. And here's the kicker: she might still act casual. She might even flirt with someone else nearby. But her location never really strays far from yours. That's her cover, a psychological defense. She gets to say, I wasn't doing anything, while her actions say everything. There's something stoic about that too. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, the things you think about determine the quality of your mind. No. If you're thinking about someone, your body follows. Where your thoughts go, your footsteps often lead, even if you won't admit it out loud. So when she keeps showing up unannounced, unscheduled, unexplained, don't ignore it. But also, don't pounce. You maintain your frame, your gravity. Because if she's drawn to your presence should speak more than your words. Let her come closer. Let her make the move, even if it's small. The woman who keeps showing up is already saying something. And the man who understands that doesn't need to ask why. If this has ever happened to you, if someone kept just being around and you knew deep down it wasn't random, type this below. I recognize presence, and don't tune out now, because what comes next might explain a feeling you've had but never fully understood. Sign 4. Subtle physical touche. You don't forget touch. You might forget what someone said. You might forget where you were. But that one moment when her hand brushed against yours, that stays. Especially when it wasn't necessary. That's the key to this sign, the touch that didn't have to happen. A casual pat on the shoulder. A quick touch on your arm as she laughs. Her knee lightly bumping yours under the table and not moving. It's so small, it's almost deniable. But if you're paying attention, it's loud. Here's what most men get wrong. They think women flirt like men. Direct, verbal, obvious. But a woman's attraction doesn't speak. First it reaches. It makes contact. Light, strategic, electric. Because the skin is a nervous system. And when attraction rises, touch becomes the outlet. Let's talk psychology for a second. In behavioral studies, initiating light, repeated context, especially in casual social settings, a strong indicator of interest. It's called haptics. And in dating dynamics, haptic behavior is never random. Think about it. If she's brushing imaginary lint off your jacket, adjusting your collar, giving you a playful nudge when you say something sarcastic, she's not just being friendly. She's testing space. She's crossing into yours. Why? Because touch creates intimacy faster than words and faster than eye contact. It says, I'm comfortable enough to break the barrier. But here's where it gets deeper. If she's taken, or the environment makes things complicated, she won't touch you in a way that screams intention. Instead, she'll do it in passing, with plausible deniability. But the frequency will tell the truth. It's never once. It's 3 times, 4, 5, over the span of an hour. Each one subtle, but each one just slightly more bold than the last. Now, let's flip it. Does she touch other people that way? Or are you the only one getting the shoulder graze, the quick laugh-touch combo, the close lean-in that lingers just a second too long? This is where you observe patterns, not moments. The Stoic doesn't react to the first signal. He tracks repetitions. And when you see this kind of touch happening just with you over and over, it's not affection, it's attraction, looking for permission. That's the deeper game. She's not just reaching out because she likes you. She's reaching out to see if you'll lean in, not physically but emotionally. Are you going to give her more room, or are you going to stay solid? Because here's what Stoicism reminds us. Being desired is not the same as being led. And the man who keeps his center even while being Tuchidis, the man who becomes magnetic. So what do you do when this happens? Don't jump, don't shrink, hold frame, stay calm. You don't lean in, you don't flinch. Let the contact happen. Let her feel the difference between every other man and you. Because if she's used to men reacting to her, the one who stays composed becomes unforgettable. And if you've noticed this pattern, if someone kept making small physical contact that seemed way too subtle to be innocent, type this in the comments. I stay composed. Now, before we move on, I want to speak to the men who are tired of guessing. If you're done being confused by signals, if you're ready to understand people and yourself on a different level, subscribe now. This isn't just about attraction. It's about clarity, strength, and becoming unshakable. And if you want more than just videos, if you want real tools, private discussions, and direct insight, consider becoming a Stoic member. We're building something sharp, honest, and real. And it's for men like you. Now, don't let your guard down just yet. What you're about to hear next flips the dynamic in a way most men never see coming. Sign number 5. She acts differently around you. Pay attention not just to what she does, but to who she becomes when you're around. That's the sign. Because attraction doesn't just change how someone looks or sounds. It shifts how they behave, how they carry themselves. And in her case, it may be subtle, but it's there. You ever notice how she's one way with everyone else, then suddenly she's someone else with you? More playful, more quiet, more alert, or maybe even slightly awkward, out of character. That inconsistency, that break in her baseline behavior, that's not her being fake, that's her being pulled. Let me give you something real. In psychology, this is called behavioral mirroring disruption. When someone's emotionally invested or internally conflicted, their natural social rhythm starts to bend. And that tension, it shows up in small behavior shifts. If she's confident and outspoken with everyone but gets oddly shy or reserved when talking to you, pay attention. If she's normally calm and collected but gets louder, jokes more, or moves around more when you walk in, watch closely. She's not just acting different. She's reacting to you. And here's where most men slip. They think, she's just in a weird mood today, or maybe I make her nervous in a bad way. But that's not nervousness, that's energy. That's internal pressure. She's trying to process her own reaction to you, and it's throwing off her default setting. It's a real thing. When someone triggers emotional or physical attraction in us, our brain starts releasing hormones dopamine, norepinephrine, that affect movement, tone, eye contact, even speech. That shift shows up as different energy. So how do you catch it? Here's the trick. Don't look for how she treats you. Look for how she treats everyone else. Then compare. That's the Stoic's approach. Detached, clear, non-reactive. The Stoic doesn't guess. He contrasts. He watches her with her friends, see how relaxed she is, how sharp her humor is. Then he watches her with him and suddenly she's pausing, adjusting her posture, or getting just a little more clumsy or a little more careful. That contrast is everything. And if she's trying to keep it together, especially if she's taken that contrast, gets sharper. Because now, it's not just interest, it's interest mixed with guilt. She doesn't want to feel obvious. So she overcorrects. She pulls back her voice. She avoids eye contact. She becomes strangely formal. That's not distance. That's containment. She's managing what she feels but doesn't want to express. You're not imagining it. You're witnessing someone who feels something but is trying not to show it. And you'll feel it before you fully see it. You'll walk into the room and sense a shift, like her whole vibe tilts for a second. Less polished, less in control. It might only last a moment, but that moment's honest. So here's what you do with that. Nothing. You don't confront her. You don't ask questions. You don't lean in. You observe. You measure. And you let her reveal the pattern. Because once is luck. Twice is chance. But the third time she acts different around you, it's not your imagination. It's something real, and she knows it, even if she'll never say it. If you've experienced this, seen someone's whole demeanor shift when you're near, drop this below. I notice change. Now some signals are emotional, some are physical, but what's coming next? It's about the one thing she can't control, no matter how hard she tries. Sign number 6. Her eyes tell the truth. You can fake a smile. You can fake a tone. You can fake interest with your words, even with your body language. But the eyes? That's where the truth leaks out. A woman can control almost every part of how she presents us, especially if she's trying to keep things hidden. But her eyes don't lie. They react before her brain finishes processing what's happening. And that's exactly why you need to watch what she looks at and how she does it. Here's what to notice. Let's say she's across the room. She's talking to someone else, but her eyes keep cutting in your directions just for a second, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. And the moment you glance back, she looks away like nothing happened. That's not boredom. That's monitoring. She's checking for you, seeing where you are, who you're with. Not because she wants to talk, but because she wants to feel your presence without inviting it directly. Now here's the twist most men never catch. It's not just about whether she looks at you, it's about how long she holds that gaze when you finally lock eyes. Does she hold your stare for a second longer than she should? Does she blink slowly? Does her expression shift ever so slightly, not into a smile, but something softer, like she's dropped her guard? Those are micro signals, and they're always more honest than anything that comes out of her mouth. You know why? Because when the emotional brain activates, when attraction kicks in, it bypasses logic, and the eyes are directly linked to that part of the nervous system. Let me break it down for you. When a woman is drawn to someone, her pupils dilate, her blink rate changes, her gaze lingers longer than it should in polite conversation. That's science, and it's not something she can control unless she's a trained interrogator. What makes this sign so powerful is that it reveals what she's trying not to say, especially if she's taken, especially if she's trying to play it cool. So when she keeps making eye contact with you in moments where there's no social reason for it, when there's nothing to talk about, when no one else is paying attention, that's real. It's not just interest, it's internal conflict leaking through her eyes. And the more she tries to hide it, the more obvious it becomes. Here's a pattern to look for. You enter a space, her eyes go to you immediately. You're not even facing her, but you feel the pressure of her gaze. You catch her looking, she drops it instantly, but not because she's afraid, because she didn't mean to let you catch her. Then later, it happens again and again. Not every time, but enough that you start to feel it, that sense of being seen even when no one else is watching. And in that, there's power, but only if you don't misuse it. This is where the Stoic principle matters most. See clearly, but don't move blindly. Don't assume you know what she wants. Don't react to the first look. Let the pattern build. Let her eyes repeat the message until the words become irrelevant. If she keeps making that same eye contact, if her gaze keeps circling back to you for no reason, you don't chase it. You receive it. You hold your frame. You give her nothing but presence in return. Because when a man can hold eye contact without breaking it, and without letting it turn him into something reactive, that's when he becomes dangerous in the right way. So tell me, have you ever locked eyes with someone and knew in that split second that there was more behind it than either of you could say? If you have, type this in the comments. I saw it happen. Now eyes tell the truth. But what happens when truth turns into action, even when it's not supposed to? That's where we're headed next. Sign 7. She dives into deep questions. Let me ask you something. When's the last time a woman caught you off guard, not with how she looked, but with what she asked you? Not the usual stuff. Not, how's your day? Not, what do you do? I'm talking about questions that made you pause, that made you think, that felt like they came from a place much closer than just polite conversation. That's not just curiosity, that's connection building. And when a woman starts digging beneath the surface like that, especially when she doesn't do that with everyone else, it's a sign, a big one. Let's break this down. When a woman is drawn to a man, especially emotionally, she wants to understand him. Not just know his facts, but know his framework, how he thinks, what he believes, where his lines are, and why. So she'll ask you questions that most people wouldn't dare to. Stuff like, what's something you've never told anyone? Do you think love is real or just chemical? What scares you more, failure or being invisible? She doesn't ask these because she's bored. She asks because she's reaching for emotional gravity. Because you don't ask someone about their wounds, fears, or private philosophies unless you feel safer, unless you want to feel closer. Now, some guys brush this off. They think she's just one of those deep thinkers. But if she doesn't ask those kinds of questions to other people and suddenly starts with you, that's not habit, that's signal. And here's what you'll notice when this happens. The tone changes. Her voice gets softer, not flirtier, just more honest. The conversation slows down. The energy in the room shifts from casual to focused. She starts asking things like, what made you like the person you are now? What do you regret the most? Or even, if you could go back in time, what would you fix? These aren't icebreakers, they're emotional access points. And when a woman invites you into that kind of dialogue, it's not about answers, it's about energy. She wants to feel who you are beneath the surface. Because if there's attraction, but no emotional weight behind it, it doesn't hold her. That's how feminine attraction works. It's not just about admiration, it's about depth. And questions are how she tests for it. Now, this doesn't mean you should spill your soul. A Stoic doesn't give himself away easily, but he also doesn't stay on the surface out of fear. He answers carefully, selectively, enough to show strength but never trying to impress, because the goal isn't to prove anything. The goal is to see clearly what's being asked and why it's being asked. Here's something to remember. The moment she starts talking to you differently than she talks to others, when the topics get heavier, when the moments get quieter, when the laughs fade and the questions stay, you've entered a different level. Not friendship, not flirtation, but psychological intimacy. And whether or not she's ready to admit it, she feels the shift, too. If you've experienced this, if she caught you off guard with something real, raw, and unexpected, type this below. I've been asked, and keep your head in the game. Because what's coming next is when her interest turns into challenge, and most men never make it past that point. Sign number 8. Microreactions of jealousy. Jealousy isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up in a split-second facial twitch. Sometimes it's just a pause, a blink, a change in how she breathes when you say another woman's name. That's what makes this sign so easy to miss and so important to catch. When a woman has feelings for you but hasn't admitted them, her reactions to your interactions with other women become sharper, not aggressive, not obvious, but noticeably off. You tell a funny story that involves another girl, her smile tightens. You casually mention a female co-worker, she asks one extra question that feels unnecessary. You're in a group setting, talking to someone else, and her eyes scan the moment with a kind of cold awareness. These are micro-reactions, and they tell you far more than words ever will. The psychology behind it is simple. Jealousy comes from perceived threat. Not threat to her relationship status, because maybe there isn't a relationship, but threat to her emotional advantage. If she's into you, even secretly, she wants to feel unique in your world. And the moment she feels like another woman has that spotlight, her guard lifts, her attention sharpens. Here's where most men mess this up. They think if she's jealous, she'll show it clearly, she'll sulk, she'll act out. But when the attraction is hidden, especially if she's taken or unsure, a jealousy gets compressed, so it leaks out sideways. Her tone changes, her answers get shorter. She suddenly gets distracted or gets overly interested in something else nearby. But you'll feel it. It's subtle, but undeniable. That emotional shift is often triggered by just one thing: another woman being in your orbit. It doesn't even have to be romantic. It just has to be someone she can't control. The Stoic man doesn't provoke this. He doesn't play games. But he notices. He watches how her energy moves the moment she's not the only center of attention. And he understands that jealousy isn't proof of love, it's proof of attachment she hasn't processed yet. If you've ever seen that flicker the mask slip just a second when you talk to someone else, type this in the comments. I've seen the flicker, and hold on tight. Because what happens when she starts testing you for confirmation? That's when it gets serious and messy. Sign number 9. Her body language speaks louder than words. You can say all the right things. So can she. But if you want to know what's really going on, watch what her body does when her mouth goes quiet. Because a woman's attraction doesn't always come out in words. Sometimes it's the tilt of her head. Sometimes it's how her feet are angled. Sometimes it's how she leans in when she doesn't need to. None of it's loud. All of it's real. Here's what most men miss. Women have been taught their whole lives to be subtle about interest, to stay indirect, to avoid coming on too strong. So even when she wants to be near you, she'll express it through body cues, not verbal cues. Let's break it down. You're in conversation. Her upper body is turned toward you, even if her words are aimed somewhere else. Her feet also pointed your way. That's no accident. It's called directional anchoring in behavioral psychology. The body turns toward what it's drawn to, even when the mind tries to hide it. Her arms aren't crossed. Her hands are open. She plays with her hair, her necklace, her phone butt slowly, almost absently. That's self-soothing behavior. It happens when nerves mix with interest. And here's where it gets more nuanced. When she's talking to someone else, but still mirroring your movements, adjusting posture when you do, shifting weight like you just did, that's unconscious syncing. People don't do that with strangers. They do that with people they're emotionally locked onto, even if they're not admitting it. Now let's talk about space. She enters a room. You're across it. Over the next 10 minutes, she moves. Slowly, indirectly. But her position shifts closer. She grabs a drink from the side you're standing on. She talks to someone next to you. Eventually, she's just close enough to be in your space without actually touching you. That's not random. That's spatial escalation. Attraction has a gravitational pull. And when she lets her body float toward yours, repeatedly, it's speaking for her, even if her words stay neutral. Sometimes, the signs are small. She leans in a little too far when you're talking. She laughs and briefly touches your arm, but only when it's just the two of you. She adjusts her clothes, mid-conversation, straightens her sleeve, smooths her dress, checks her hair. That's not vanity. That's preening behavior biologically linked to mating cues. She's not doing it for you. She's doing it because of you. But here's the trick. She may not even realize she's doing any of this. That's what makes body language powerful. It bypasses logic. It's the most honest part of communication because it's involuntary. You ask her how she feels. She says, "I don't know," but her eyes light up when you walk in. Her shoulders drop when she's near you. Her voice lowers, but her body stays open. That's the truth. It's just not spoken. Now don't confuse every friendly movement with attraction. Some women are naturally warm, expressive, comfortable in close spaces. The difference? Pattern and change. If she behaves one way with everyone and changes that rhythm with you, that's the tell. The Stoic man watches without jumping. He compares, he notices, and most of all, he stays centered. Because when her body language is clear but her words say otherwise, you don't chase the contradiction. You let the signs stack. You let the truth reveal itself without needing to force it. And if you felt this, if someone's body leaned in, even while her words stayed cool, type this in the comments. I read the signs. Now you've seen 9 signals, 9 small reveals. But what if there's one final clue that ties them all together? One sign that flips the entire dynamic, and most men never recognize it until it's too late. That's exactly where we're going next. Sign number 10. She's emotionally invested in you. There's a difference between liking someone and being affected by them. And when a woman is emotionally invested in you, even if she hasn't said it out loud, her emotional state starts tying itself to your presence, your actions, and your attention. You show up unexpectedly, her mood lifts. You pull back slightly. She feels unsettled. You share something personal. She listens with more focus than anyone else in the room. That's emotional investment. Not in words, not in romantic gestures, but in energy, in the weight you carry inside her world. And here's how you recognize it. She remembers the small things you say, things most people forget. She notices when something's off with you, even when you don't mention it. She becomes emotionally reactive, subtle shifts in her mood, tied to how close or far you seem. That's because she's not just interested anymore. She's attached to outcome. How you feel affects how she feels. How you move changes how she thinks. And that kind of investment, it's hard to hide. You'll see it in her concern. You'll feel it when she gets distant after sensing your distance. You'll hear it when she asks questions that reveal she's been thinking about you when you weren't around. She might try to play it cool. She might say, "I'm just checking in." But the truth is, if your presence changes her emotional temperature, she's already in deeper than she wants to admit. Most men overlook this. They keep searching for dramatic signs, obvious confessions. But emotional investment rarely comes with fireworks. It comes with silence when you're distant, and light when you're near. The Stoic man doesn't manipulate that. He doesn't feed off it, but he respects it. Because emotional investment, once noticed, must be handled with integrity. If she's already attached, your next move matters more than you think. You've just seen the signs most men never notice, not because they're blind, but because they're busy listening when they should be watching, feeling when they should be observing, guessing when they should be knowing. If you've made it this far, you're not like most men. You're not here for shallow games. You're here to understand, to sharpen, to grow. So here's what's next. Subscribe now, if you haven't already. We drop content like this every day. Not noise, not fluff, but signal built for men who think deeper, move smarter, and refuse to live on autopilot. And if you want more than just insight, if you want tools, a tribe, and truth that doesn't make it to public videos, join the Stoic Brotherhood. Inside, we go beyond signs. We talk power, presence, discipline, and clarity. Everything the world doesn't hand you, we build together. Thanks for watching. Thanks for thinking. And I'll see you same time tomorrow.